Ms. Miller, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Amanzada,
Here.
Commissioner Bochco,
Here.
Recording in progress.
Commissioner Hart,
Here.
Commissioner Kunkel,
Here.
Commissioner Padilla, Commissioner Rice,
Here.
Commissioner Uranga, Chair Brownsie.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Schwang. The next item is general public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the commission on any item that is not on our agenda this month. Members of the public, if you could introduce yourself when your name is called, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Next, we have Nathan Brenner, followed by Ellis Walton, followed by Lydia Ponce. Nathan Brenner, you may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nathan Brenner, a resident of La Jolla, California. This commission has recognized protecting and restoring coastal habitat is vital to preserving California's unique coastal ecosystems and wildlife. Pursuant to the Coastal Act Policy 3230, I urge this commission to be proactive and recognize the magnitude of harm occurring in La Jolla's coastal environment. La Jolla's coastline has faced years of human-caused destruction of sensitive coastal habitat with little to no efforts to restore the habitats. La Jolla's coastal bluffs need a period of time to allow the habitat to recover from human-caused damage. La Jolla needs a total closure of the coastal bluffs seaward of the existing fencing and barriers from the Coast Walk, Goldfish Point, the Point La Jolla Sea Lion Rookery and Boomers Beach, south to Casa Beach at the Seal Rookery. The city of San Diego is unable to effectively manage the coastal bluff areas due to claimed staffing shortages. A closure of these sensitive coastal bluffs is the best option to mitigate human-caused destruction of the habitat and ongoing erosion. A closure will also mitigate the ongoing harassment of pelicans, nesting cormorants and gulls, and sea lions. Again, I urge the Coastal Commission to be proactive and use its enforcement powers under the Coastal Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwang. On to, I believe, 11C, which is the La Jolla seal issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that does take us down to that item, and Caitlin Carney with the San Diego District Office is going to do the staff presentation on that matter. There is a staff PowerPoint if you could bring that up. I also do want to mention that our biologist, Dr. Lori Coteen, will be available for questions. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thanks. Good morning, Commissioners. Item 11C is an application from the City of San Diego Parks and Recreation Department for a seasonal closure of the Point La Jolla area during the sea lion pupping season. There is an addendum for this item. Next slide, please. So the project site is Point La Jolla, an approximately 7/10 of an acre site consisting of coastal bluffs and a rocky outcropping in the La Jolla community. Point La Jolla is north and west of Ellen Browning Scripps Park and is between Boomer Beach and La Jolla Cove. Children's Pool, the popular beach protected by a seawall breakwater and known for its harbor seal population, is approximately half a mile to the south. The Matlahuil State Marine Reserve is immediately east of Point La Jolla. This marine protected area is managed by California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and fishing and collecting are prohibited within this area, which is shown partially in green here. Point La Jolla and the surrounding area provide recreational and educational opportunities for swimmers, divers, tourists, scientists, and the general public through its lifeguard facilities, large grassy park, paved walking path with public views, parking along Coast Boulevard, benches, and restrooms and rental facilities. Next slide, please. As you are aware, over the last year, city and commission staff have received numerous complaints from the public of increased harassment and conflicts between humans and sea lions at Point La Jolla. In 2020, the city installed signage prepared by NOAA, warning people of the presence of the sea lions and stating the legal requirements to maintain a safe and respectful viewing distance. Additional warning signs and stencils were installed in April 2021. But despite this signage, there have been many occurrences of people attempting to touch the sea lions, take close photographs or selfies, or act in ways that would likely be considered harassment. Next slide, please. Therefore, on August 10th, 2021, the city issued an emergency CDP for the closure of Point La Jolla to all public access until September 15th, 2021. The emergency closure included signage, closure of the wooden access stairway, and monitoring by city park rangers. Based on information provided by volunteer docents, the 2021 emergency closure was successful in keeping the public away from the animals and reducing incidents between people and sea lions during their pupping season. The subject application is the follow-up CDP to the city's emergency CDP. And because the project includes areas within both the city's jurisdiction and the commission's jurisdiction, this application is a consolidated CDP covering all areas. Chapter 3 of the Coastal Act is the standard of review, with the city's certified LCP used as guidance. Next slide, please. The city proposes to close Point La Jolla to public access from May 25th to September 15th each year. Signage will be installed indicating that the area is closed to the public, and a chain will close the wooden access stairway on the eastern end of the site. 2 K-rails will be placed on the western end of the closure area to create a path from the top of the bluff down to Boomer Beach to allow for limited ocean access during the closure. The public will be allowed to transit through these K-rails to the water to participate in ocean recreation activities, such as swimming, body surfing, and spearfishing. A water access only sign will be placed in front of the ocean access area, which is shown in the blue crosshatch on this slide. 1 to 2 city park rangers will monitor the area year-round during peak hours, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., depending on the season. Dogs will be prohibited in Point La Jolla year-round. The primary issues raised by the project relate to Coastal Act requirements to protect marine resources in a manner that will sustain the biological productivity and healthy populations of marine species, while also maximizing public access and recreation to the coast. Next slide, please. Although sea lions are neither threatened nor endangered under federal or state law, the haul out and pupping sites that they use provide valuable habitat for the sea lion life cycle that warrants protection. The potential adverse impacts of continued human disturbance to hauled out sea lions are particularly significant during their vulnerable mating and pupping season. During this time, the sea lions haul out of the water and remain on the beach and bluffs for longer periods of time to prepare for birth, give birth, nurse and care for their pups, and mate. While the city's proposed closure from May 25th to September 15th generally coincides with the peak sea lion pupping season, based on discussions with experts and a review of scientific literature, the Commission's ecologist recommends that the closure begin on May 1st and extend through October 31st. This will better capture the full extent of the sea lion mating and pupping season. Staff's recommended closure period includes time for pregnant females to haul out and prepare for birth, a 4-month period for pups to adequately bond with their mothers and develop swimming skills, and a buffer to reduce public safety concerns from aggressive animals during mating season. Sea lion pup survival is greatly enhanced through solid bonding with their mothers, as pups are reliant on their mothers for providing food, for nursing, and for learning survival skills. Therefore, special condition number 1 requires the city to revise the seasonal closure to extend from May 1st to October 31st. Staff's recommended closure period of 6 months is similar to the seasonal closure the Commission has approved for harbor seals at nearby Children's Pool. Children's Pool is closed for 5 months each year, from December 15th to May 15th, to protect the animals during their pupping season. The slightly longer closure at Point La Jolla reflects that sea lions nurse for a longer period of time and are less skilled at swimming at birth compared to harbor seals. Last summer, commission staff also had discussions with city staff about a proposal to conduct fireworks shows at the adjacent Ellen Browning Scripps Park. Because of the potential for fireworks to result in adverse impacts on the sea lions, such as through flushing caused by loud noises, lighting, or debris, commission staff discussed a potential firework prohibition with the city. Therefore, special condition number 1 also prohibits firework displays in Ellen Browning Scripps Park during the seasonal closure. Next slide, please. As proposed, the boundaries of the closure area would encompass the bluffs at Point La Jolla with an ocean accessway to the southwest. City staff clarified this week that south of the ocean accessway at Boomer Beach, public access to the sandy beach would be unrestricted during the seasonal closure. Information provided by volunteer docents documents that the sea lions actively haul out on the sand at Boomer Beach, just as they do at the nearby bluffs. Allowing unrestricted public access to this area would not adequately protect the sea lions from human disturbance and would likely result in confusion as to what activities can occur where, making enforcement of the closure difficult for rangers. Next slide, please. Therefore, based on this recent clarification, staff is recommending a change to special condition number 1, which is shown on the slide here. That would allow ocean access only to the remainder of Boomer Beach, southwest of the ocean access area shown on the city's plans. Thus, the public will be able to transit from the top of the bluffs to enter and exit the water in this area. However, general public access will not be allowed on Boomer Beach during the seasonal closure. City staff is in agreement with this special condition. Next slide, please. To inform the public of the seasonal closure and the year-round requirements to maintain a safe distance from the sea lions, special condition number 5 requires the city to submit a final signage plan consistent with the one submitted with this application, and it will include signs for posting both during and outside of the seasonal closure. The special condition requires that the area closed signs proposed to be installed during the seasonal closure, and shown on the slide here, be revised to add the closure dates and language that says sea lion pupping season, so that members of the public understand the purpose of the closure. In addition, staff is recommending a change to special condition number 5 to add that these signs must also include a Spanish language translation as well. Next slide, please. To assess the ongoing effectiveness of the seasonal closure and determine if any significant changes have occurred, special condition number 3 requires the city to prepare and submit a monitoring plan. This plan will assess the level of use by sea lions of the haul-out site at Point La Jolla and the effectiveness of the seasonal closure at eliminating harassment. The monitoring reports will be submitted to the commission by March 1st of each year, with all raw monitoring data submitted by January 1st of each year. The executive director will review the results of the monitoring and assess the need for any changes to the seasonal closure through a CDP amendment. Based on the outcome of the city's emergency closure last year, it's anticipated that the proposed project will effectively reduce sea lion harassment during their vulnerable pupping season. However, it is possible that harassment may begin again once public access restrictions are lifted. Therefore, special condition number 4 requires the city to prepare a long-term management plan for Point La Jolla. The condition requires the city to submit a preliminary plan by November 1st at the end of this year's closure season, and submit a final plan by April 1st, 2023. The long-term management plan will include strategies to reduce harassment outside of the pupping season while maximizing public access. It is possible that changed circumstances at Point La Jolla may make public access restrictions unnecessary in the future, such as because of the natural migration of the sea lions to another area. It's also possible that allowing for ocean access to the water at Boomer Beach may not adequately protect the sea lions. For that reason, the special conditions have been structured to allow the city to amend the permit to reduce or increase access restrictions in the future based on the monitoring results required by this permit. Special condition number 2 also limits the permit term to 7 years, which will align with the end of the permit term for the seasonal closure at Children's Pool. Some members of the public have raised concerns with the proposed ocean recreation accessway and are advocating for complete closure of Point La Jolla. I'm on slide 10, please. Thank you. Some members of the public have raised concerns with the proposed ocean recreation accessway. Because sea lions do haul out on Boomer Beach, they do not believe that allowing the public to transit through this ocean accessway will adequately protect the sea lions from harassment. Commission staff understands these concerns. However, the city's proposal to allow for ocean recreation users attempts to balance the Coastal Act's marine resource protection policies with its public access provisions, both of which are important coastal resources. To enforce the ocean accessway, the city will have park rangers at the site year-round and for most of the day. Rangers will ensure that members of the public are using the ocean accessway for transit from the bluffs to the water for ocean activities only, and are not taking advantage of the accessway to harass sea lions. In addition, the monitoring condition includes collecting data on how many people are using the accessway and how many sea lions are present within the accessway area. If the data shows that the seasonal closure is not reducing conflicts between humans and sea lions and harassment continues, the city is required to submit a CDP amendment. In addition, this special condition requires the city to submit a first-year interim update, so commission and city staff will have a sense of how well the project is performing as soon as August of this year. Finally, the number of spearfishers and body surfers is anticipated to be quite small. Therefore, we do not expect that having a few people transit quickly through the area will result in significant harm to the sea lions. Next slide, please. Opponents of the proposed closure have raised concerns about public access. During the seasonal closure, the public walkway along the top of the bluff will remain open to the public and will provide a unique opportunity to walk and observe the sea lions and their pups. The photo here was taken during the 2021 emergency closure and shows how the public would be able to view the sea lions from the top of the bluff. In addition, the city's proposal provides a means for the public to transit from the top of the bluffs to the water, allowing for ocean recreation activities to continue even during the seasonal closure. In the other 6 non-pupping season months of the year, public use of the bluffs and the surrounding waters would be restored. Next slide, please. As described in the addendum, the city also proposes to include after-the-fact authorization of the wooden access stairway as part of this application. In late 2021, members of the public reported to commission staff that unpermitted development had occurred, including construction of a wooden stairway at the eastern end of the project site, sometime between 1987 and 2002. Although public access to the bluffs is available throughout the project area, since there's no fence and people can easily step over the low concrete retaining wall, the stairway provides convenient access down to the bluffs. During the seasonal closure, the city proposes to install a chain and an area closed sign across this wooden stairway. The commission and the city have no permit history for the stairway. Therefore, the city is requesting after-the-fact authorization. Special condition number 8 requires the city to submit as-built plans for the stairway within 90 days of commission action. Next slide, please. In implementing the public access policies of the Coastal Act, the Commission must consider the need to regulate the time, place, and manner of public access, depending on the facts and circumstances in each case. This is one circumstance where it is appropriate to implement public access restrictions to provide marine resource protection during sea lion pupping and mating season. The city has tried various means of protecting the sea lions without resorting to a seasonal closure, but warning signage proved ineffective. The proposed closure will provide a much clearer, more enforceable line between public access restrictions and sea lion protection, and is expected to eliminate or significantly reduce sea lion harassment and disturbance during this vulnerable life stage. The 7-year permit term, combined with the required monitoring, will allow the city and the commission to evaluate the necessity of the seasonal closure over time and determine if adjustments need to be made, such as relaxing access restrictions should sea lions no longer haul out at Point La Jolla, or increasing restrictions if the ocean accessway does not adequately protect the sea lions. Commission staff recommends that the commission approve Coastal Development Permit 622-0113 as conditioned in the staff report and as modified in this presentation. The motion is on page 6, and staff is available for questions, including the commission's ecologist, Dr. Lori Coteen. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carney. Excellent presentation. Okay, are there any ex partes on this issue? Okay, seeing none. Is the City of San Diego Parks and Rec, do we have someone from there?
We have 3 members from the city of San Diego, 2 available for questions and 1 who wishes to speak.
Okay, and what is the name of the person?
Joe LaCava, city council member.
Okay, Council Member LaCava, how much time would you need?
He's being promoted to a panelist.
Thank you, Chair. May I begin?
Council Member LaCava, how much time would you need?
Mine is a little more than 5 minutes, and I will also introduce staff so that you're aware of everybody who is here available for questions.
Okay, why don't we give you 8 minutes?
Okay.
And that way you'll have a few minutes in case you need them to rebut to any of the information from the public or any concluding comments that you'd like to make. All right, please proceed, Council Member LaCava.
Thank you very much. Chair Brownsie, commissioners, thank you for hearing the City of San Diego's application for a seasonal closure at Point La Jolla. I am Joe LaCava, and I have the honor of representing District 1 on the San Diego City Council. My district includes Point La Jolla, the Children's Pool, the natural coastline and beaches, and the major tourist attraction and residential neighborhood that is La Jolla. Let me start by thanking the Coastal Commission staff that have worked with the city to develop today's coastal permit and the associated conditions. Your expertise and accessibility has been tremendously valuable in this process and demonstrates the productive relationship between the city and the commission. Rookery at La Jolla and Boomer Beach is certainly a unique site in California. Nowhere else can the public find themselves in an urban, residential, and tourist environment at the very edge of the Pacific Ocean, its beaches and world-class waves, and observe a flourishing sea lion and harbor seal colonies. I am honored to represent such a distinctly diverse area. Protecting each of these elements is critical to who we are as San Diegans, La Jollans, recreational ocean goers, and environmentalists. The public appeal of this area has, unfortunately, as you heard, not been without conflict. The vast majority of individuals visiting and using Point La Jolla are respectful. We are here today because we have seen, and I have personally seen, many instances of unsafe human behavior, creating a hazardous environment for themselves, other visitors, disrupt the quiet enjoyment of this natural asset, and occasionally leading to overt harassment of sea lions. As described in the Commission's report and Ms. Carney's presentation, the City of San Diego's actions did not begin with this application. Rather, we took several incremental steps to limit those conflicts and incidents while preserving coastal access. Those efforts began last spring 2021, shortly after Mayor Gloria and I took office. I started our efforts by calling for the public to promote responsible tourism. And then shortly thereafter, with the assistance of our park and rec staff, added signage and stenciling to alert the public to the birthing sea lions and their newborn pups. Reports of harassment continued, and with the pandemic restrictions subsiding, visitors crowded the point, encroaching on the pups and getting dangerously close to overprotective bulls. Following the guidance of the Coastal Commission, the city issued an emergency coastal development permit midsummer 2021 to temporarily close Point La Jolla and portions of Boomer Beach for the balance of the summer. And we added park rangers to educate tourists and keep them out of the rookery. Creating this separation last summer for a portion of the pupping season was a successful test of a long-term solution. With that success as a starting point, city staff began working on the coastal development permit you have before you, an annual seasonal closure of Point La Jolla. The process in putting this application together has been thoughtful and purposeful, developed through observations and reports of the coastline and activities, and most importantly, the input from the local community, concerned stakeholders, and those that access the ocean waters. As the former chair of the La Jolla Community Planning Association, and as someone who was involved with the decade-long process to close Children's Pool, I understood that the ultimate design of this plan needed to reflect a range of viewpoints, and it needed to happen fast. In multiple neighborhood meetings, I joined our park and rec staff in presenting the draft seasonal closure and encouraged public feedback through an online survey. It is through these meetings and the over 1,000 survey responses, our proposal has evolved from the emergency closure we instituted last summer to a more sophisticated and collaborative solution that respects our local coastal plan. From the public, we heard and incorporated a variety of conditions. We heard the need for more enforcement, and we are adding rangers, as you heard, 7 days a week over the entire year. We heard the need for body surfers and spear fishermen to legally and safely enter the water, and we have created a zone through Burma Beach that restricts individual activity to only ocean recreational activities. We heard the need to strengthen the city's regulatory authority, and as chair of the city's environment committee, I am bringing forward an action to add the closure period and boundaries to the San Diego Municipal Code to give the rangers the enforcement capabilities they need, authority that we previously granted the rangers at Children's Pool. We heard loud and clear the need to protect sea lions during pupping season. There is no excuse for harassing behavior towards defenseless pups. Seasonal closure proposed by commission staff from May 1st and through October 31st will keep them protected while maintaining human safety. Just like the process we have led over the past year, the environment at Point La Jolla is evolving. Through constant communication with commission staff and our local and diverse stakeholder groups, we will lead with education, promote conservation, ensuring safe observing, and provide suitable coastal access. In conclusion, I want to thank the city's team that has worked on this issue, led by Karen Dennison and Mike Tully with our Parks and Recreation team, and with the full support of the mayor's office, have prioritized the processing of this CDP and moved with lightning speed to coordinate across multiple city departments to file the application and work with your staff during permit review. Karen and Mike are available today and are joined by our chief ranger, his leadership staff, and members of our planning department. All are available to answer your questions and be of assistance today and throughout the duration of the permit. Thank you again for your time and attention to this permit issue. I'll now turn it over to Karen Dennison to formally introduce the city team. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
Good morning. I'm Karen Dennison with the city's Parks and Recreation Department. I'm the Assistant Director and the co-lead of this important effort. I am so pleased to be here with you today with our city team. I'd like to go ahead and take the time to introduce these key members and available to answer any and all questions you have today. First, I'd like to introduce Michael Tully, Deputy Director for the Parks and Recreation Department. Second, Michael Ruiz, Chief Park Ranger. Daniel Denieri, District Manager for Shoreline Parks, as well as Senior Park Ranger Rich Valesky. From our Planning Department, we have the pleasure to have Marlon Pangilinan, as well as Elena Pascual and Serena Basra. Together today, we are here to go ahead and answer any questions that you have regarding our proposal. We're very excited to be able to talk in more detail. And with that, I also want to take the time to go ahead and thank Councilmember LaCava, the commissioners, and of course, the San Diego Commission staff in which we've collaborated over these past months. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dennison. Appreciate you having your team there. Okay, moving to public comment. How many members of the public wish to speak on this issue?
We have about 23 people.
Okay, 23. All right, they will be given 2 minutes each. Thanks so much.
First, we have Mark Brown, followed by Kurt Hoffman, followed by Volker Hohn. Mark Brown, you're being promoted to a panelist. When you're able to, please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Unmute. How do you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Brown, and I have a unique perspective. I first came to La Jolla in 1977 as an ocean lifeguard, and I body surfed there and attended that park 2 or 3 days a week ever since. 45 years of being in that park has made it a very special place. Could we go to the next slide, please? And just hit these about every 2 or 3 seconds. I've got a lot to get done. Okay, keep going. Okay, so this is a special place. I've been here a long time. I used to be an ocean lifeguard. I was an ambulance driver, a paramedic. Next slide, please. And this place has meant a lot to me. And what's happened as these slides go through every 2 or 3 seconds, you're looking at these pictures. This is me almost drowning at Point La Jolla. And this is a wonderful spot. It gives a sense of camaraderie, gives a sense of nature, it gives a sense of power. It is a community. I've been involved in it so intimately as a lifeguard, a paramedic. I can't believe how fortunate I am to have lived this long and enjoyed this place. And here are pictures I'm going to show real quick about all these places that you're hearing described. And these are pictures where we've jumped in the ocean off of this point. And we do it because it's such a thrill and it's so much fun. It's a bit dangerous at times, but what this is a experience that I have been doing for 45 years and I don't want to stop. And if you close down beaches, like the children's pool was closed, like this Seal Rock was closed, now we're closing Point La Jolla, the Cove could be next. These things happen and it disrupts the community of the park. And I feel like we need to be not so negative and have a more positive approach. This place is special and closing it is not what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kurt Hoffman.
Thank you. We were able to make it here today. It looked like the agenda was going to be on the afternoon, but I see we're here on the morning, so I'm on my own here for this presentation. If you can go to slide number 2 of the submitted material, I would appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. During the 2021 Point La Jolla closure, the city of San Diego spent $10,000 to fund Dr. Doyle Hannon's independent evaluation
Start the
of
clock,
the,
please.
I'm sorry, thank you. The
Proceed.
independent evaluation of the emergency Point La Jolla closure. The San Diego District Coastal Commission staff report does not cite this important report published on November 5th of 2021. Slide number 2, please. Dr. Hannon's detailed study does not endorse any specific closures for sea lions in La Jolla. Slide 3, please. This is a quote from the report on page 7. We do not endorse closing any areas of La Jolla for the benefit of California sea lions. An abundant stock at optimal sustainable population and fully recovered. Slide number 4, please. Thank you. Here's another partial quote. We recommend the closure of temporary with the flexibility to place them in any areas of concern throughout the city limits. We recommend this because California sea lions do change hauling out locations. Currently, the sea lions are hauled out at the East Bluffs below Brockton Villa. Point La Jolla is almost completely clear currently. So the sea lions move around quite a bit. We are recommending that the emergency closure for this year happens. We will respect it. We appreciate the access that is being provided for recreational users, but we do not support a 7-year closure. This needs to be studied with an environmental impact report, and Dr. Hannon's report needs to be endorsed because it was a very scientific study of the emergency closure. If you can go on to slide number 7. I'd like to cover this a little bit. We recommend amending the San Diego Marine Coastal Procedures, allowing access and preserving this area. The Ellen Browning Scripps Park has been severely negatively impacted by the sea lion rookery, and we support a 1-year.
Thank you. Next is Volker Hone, followed by Paul Emis, followed by Michael Hoffman. Volker Hone, you should be in the meeting.
There we go. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to consider the Point La Jolla closure. Okay, I'm Volker Hone. I'm speaking on behalf of the Watermen's Alliance, San Diego Freedivers, and the Long Beach Neptunes. Collectively, we oppose the closure to Point La Jolla. We wish to retain historical rights to transit to no man's, which we've been doing since 1933. We've been assaulted and accosted by SEAL activists for the last 20 years. We want a peaceful experience at the beach. Now, the Sierra Club has made a really strong political rationale for closing Point La Jolla. Did a good job. However, it's a well-known fact, there's no scientific rationale for closing it. Sea lions are neither endangered nor threatened. I think we have more sea lions in La Jolla than we do pigeons at certain times of the year. Your closure, or the Point La Jolla closure, criminalizes using the coast and recreational fishing. It also criminalizes 4th of July fireworks celebrations to a certain degree. It's an ongoing incremental closure in La Jolla. I'm sure we'll have more. This will be the 3rd SEAL-motivated closure. I'm sure we will be, within 5 years, we'll be talking about the next one. And also, we have, what it accomplishes is it educates the general public how to interact with wildlife, which is a good thing. What it does not address is the public's desire to emulate their role models, such as Mr. Watson's from Sea Shepherd, take selfies with the seals, nor does it address the desire of middle-aged women who transfer their motherly instincts to baby seals and work out their father issues with the fishermen. Seals are there because of El Nino, La Nina cycles, and because they're currently being dispersed from the coast. Thank you, and please retain our historical right to transit to Boomer.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Emis.
This is Paul Emis with a video compilation of testimonials that I would like to please play now. Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please give us a moment.
Yeah.
Mr. Emis, what name are your slides under?
11C, Paul Emis. It's a video.
We don't have a submission under that name.
Yes.
Okay, we can't seem to find them, Mr. Emis. Why don't you go ahead and testify? We'll give the staff a minute to see if they can, but they're saying that they don't have a record.
I can read
Okay.
a transcript of a video. One woman said, "One of the things I saw today was the birth of a new baby, which is amazing, but it also is a little scary.
Please start the clock.
People are not keeping their distance from the calf and from the mom. They are all over the place. The mom is nervous. One man said, I have been at the Cove since 1966, and I have witnessed a dramatic increase in the harassment of sea lions, and it is causing major problems. A woman visitor said, I am from Florida and we take our animals seriously. We are protected not only by police officers, lifeguards, and everyone. It is a roped off and protected. Another woman commented, these folks are getting way too close to wildlife. It is not safe. A visitor from Holland saw a baby, said, I don't understand. We have seals in Holland and we protect them very well. A concerned couple said, they can see plenty from here. Yeah, you can just see a ton. Let them be safe. We need to do something. We need some regulations. A photographer said, I've been here in La Jolla for the last 20 years. I love going down and photographing them, but during certain seasons, like birthing season, you have to give them their space. They're very protective. They're pregnant. They're giving birth. I just witnessed a death, and a grieving sea lion mom is now missing a pup because people kept encroaching further and further with their cell phones. They just had to have their selfie for Instagram. We have to respect nature. Another photographer said, I was shocked at the condition there, at the tourists harassing the seals and not having full-time park rangers on site. Now I am here at the sea lions and we just witnessed the first birth of the season, and people were all over it. Finally, a young woman said, take the stairs out completely because there's absolutely no need for people to go down there just so they can get a selfie for Instagram. And then you need to put up a railing right here so people can't jump over the wall. It's not good for the dogs due to the feces. The dogs get it on their paws. You guys are not stepping up and taking care of the animals that we have here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Michael Hoffman, followed by Carol Archibald, followed by Susan Coelho. Michael Hoffman, you may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
My name is Michael Hoffman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So I want to thank the Honorable Coastal Commission for this opportunity to speak. And doesn't look, am I getting a video on this? Let's try that. See what happens. Thank you to the Honorable Commission for this opportunity to speak. As a San Diego City lifeguard, I worked in the La Jolla area in the mid-1970s for 12 years, frequently at the children's pool in La Jolla Cove. Now, I want to first comment on the children's pool because what happened there is what's happening at Point La Jolla. The children's pool, it was a beautiful beach for swimming and diving and sunning. My wife and I took our children to the children's pool when they were young. And currently, we frequently go to Hospital Point for the sunsets. And there have always been some seals and sea lions around. They're mostly disappeared, though, when the people came around. 1994, the Children's Pool Reserve was created. The problem is the pollution which remains. And currently, I will not use that beach because of the feces in the sand and bacterial counts in the water. And I feel the same path is being taken at Point La Jolla. Sea lions have colonized the rocks and the beaches, both Boomer and La Jolla Cove. Conservation groups want these restricted, like the children's pool. Children's pool is what, 4 months a year. So already we have many complaints about pollution, at Point La Jolla, and we need to ask some questions. Okay, what beaches are the seals and sea lions going to colonize next? Wipeout Beach, Hospital Point, Marine Street? Will we continue to make the same mistakes and keep closing points and beaches until none are left? So my recommendation is, how about stopping now? No more closures. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Archibald.
Yes, I am here. May I have the first slide? This is Dr. Is the slide up, please?
Yes.
Okay, this is Dr. Laura Palmer. She's director of the Marine Mammals Care Center in San Pedro, and she's depicted here observing sea lions at the La Jolla Rookery. Next slide, please. This is her letter, which I will read. Dear Commissioners, I am writing in support of seasonal closure of Point La Jolla Rookery during sea lion pupping season to protect this remarkable natural marine animal resource. For the last 2 years, I've visited the rookery several times a year to observe the natural development and interactions of sea lion pups with their mothers and the behavior of adult and subadult males during breeding season. I have witnessed the endless desire from the public, usually with children in tow, to approach these animals without regard for their own or the animal's welfare, well-being, or safety. I applaud trying to balance the need for coastal access with animal protection. However, I share concern with the Sierra Club Seal Society that providing access through Boomer Beach for ocean water activities will result in continued disruption to the rookery, perpetuate ongoing conflicts with the public, and potentially endanger swimmers, fishermen, and divers. Next slide, please. While many sea lions are tolerant of people, they can and do startle. And when they do, they rush over smaller or slower animals, which can be deadly for small pups. Adult bulls swim in close proximity to Boomer Beach to defend their females from other males. And on one occasion, I observed a large bull swim directly toward a spear fisherman who had entered through the proposed open access route across Boomer Beach. The bull followed the spear fisherman, who eventually had to turn his spear on the bull to get him to retreat. I have witnessed dozens of dependent sea lion pups tucked into the rocks on Boomer while people walked through the area, disrupting their sleeping and nursing. Protecting the north end of the rookery on the Rocky Point, but not the southern end that extends onto Boomer Beach, does not address the problems associated with the disturbance and harassment. I support the Sierra Club Seal Society's recommendation to extend the closure area as they've delineated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Susan Quello, followed by Larry Asakawa, followed by Robin Davidoff. Susan Quello, you may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Susan Quello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Do you have my video?
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Gish. I am a graduate student at Miami University studying conservation biology, and the focus of my studies through the past couple years has been on the human-sea lion conflict in Point La Jolla. Last summer and fall of 2021, I actually conducted
We
a
turn up
several
the volume
month-long
if we can.
observational study looking at the efficacy of warning signs. In late June, early July, the city had approved additional warning signs to be put up in Point La Jolla to warn people to stay away from the sea lions. Throughout my studies, every time I was down there, I actually counted the amount of people that I saw on the boardwalk versus the amount of people that I saw down on the rocks with the sea lions. At the end of my study, when I did crunch all the numbers, I found that there was only about a 4% decrease in the amount of people that were down with the sea lions after the additional warning signs were put into place. And that is statistically an insignificant number. Now, anytime there was an A-frame warning sign that was actually placed at the top of the staircase, physically blocking access to that staircase, there was a 98% decrease in human traffic with the sea lions, thus significantly reducing harassment incidents with the sea lions. So what I have found through all my data and evidence is that the staircase is the biggest contributor to the human conflict with the sea lions, and that physically blocking access to that staircase and to the sea lions is the best way to reduce the conflict and to avoid harassment incidents between the public and the sea lions. Thank you, and I hope this helps contribute to this very important topic.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next, we have Larry Asakawa. Give us a moment. Larry, when you're able to.
Here we go. Here we go. I had to reload. Sorry. And can you hear me now, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. very good. I wasn't actually planning on speaking, and I had introduced myself a couple months ago. I'm a former Scripps Institute of Oceanography research diver, and I was also a population biologist contributing to EIR studies up and down Southern California, including San Onofre, and I was a project manager for Lockheed Oceanograph Division. But what I see is what I encourage the coastal commissioners, honorable commissioners, to do is to make fact-based decisions. And I'm very disturbed that Dr. Hannon's report paid for by the city, and I believe the total amount that was revealed by two invoices were $10,000 a piece, so it could have been $20,000, could be more. This Dr. Hannon did the original studies for the East Bluffs along La Jolla Cove and also the Children's Pool. So a very respected PhD, Scripps former professor, I believe, researcher there anyway, that his detailed studies are being ignored. They aren't even cited in the staff report. That's it's a little alarming to me. And I question why it would not even be included in the literature review, since taxpayers paid for it. I lived in 92037 La Jolla. So this is, and I'm also a boomer body surfer, a filmmaker now, but I encourage the staff and the city and the Coastal Commission to please review this literature and study. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Next, we have Robin Davidoff and Richard Miller from the Sierra Club. There's a 10-minute presentation. Was that approved?
Yes.
Okay. The presentation and then the video during the presentation.
10 minutes total. So Davidoff and any of the other names can't also speak. Okay, thanks.
Robin Davidoff, you should be in the meeting and able to unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Yes, this is Robin Davidoff with Sierra Club. Richard Miller was going to start the first couple of slides and then turn it over to me.
Let me bring him in really quick. Richard Miller, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So good morning. I'm Richard Miller. I'm the director of the Sierra Club San Diego, representing more than 40,000 members and supporters in the San Diego region. We thank the commission for this opportunity to comment on the City of San Diego CDP application. Next slide, please. Point La Jolla and Boomer Beach is a unique and sensitive habitat. It is the only sea lion rookery on California's coastline. We commend the staff for their thorough investigation and careful review of the science and facts. Especially significant are the special conditions for a longer closure period of May 1 to October 31, and a management plan to cover the open period of November to April. Next slide, please. However, we are opposed to the proposed ocean access area, and we recommend that the seasonal closure include all of the area closed under the City of San Diego Emergency CDP. We recommend this for 4 reasons. It creates 3 areas with different access rules. Public access was provided through a designated trail during the emergency closure. The proposed ocean access is through a breeding area where 40% of births occur. and this encourages swimming on a dangerous beach. Next slide, and Robin Dadoff will take over.
Okay, so, and to continue with Richard was saying that he is requesting special condition 1 be amended to add a third revision, that the seasonal closure shall include all of the area closed under the City of San Diego's emergency CDP. And we ask for your yes vote. Next slide, please. So I'm Robin Davidoff. I'm the chair of the SEAL Society, and I represent over 30 passionate docents who educate the public about this unique sea lion rookery. We collected data on the births, population size, number of visitors in the rookery, and those viewing from the sidewalk. We also calculated the number of calls to NOAA last year, which was over 58, and 30 calls to the police. We now ask the commissioners to protect the sea lion rookery from visitors of up to 300 per hour, and specifically give the sea lion rookery the same protections during pupping season that the children's pool and 16 other seal rookeries in California have. Close the area during the pupping season to ensure unimpeded protections during this vulnerable stage of their life cycle. We've made progress and ask you to go one step further by reinstating the emergency closure boundary or closing the area completely. Next slide, please. So let's look at the plan that this been proposed. As you can see in yellow, that's the sea lion rookery at Point La Jolla and at Boomer Beach. It's one continuous area. No man's land or no man's point can be accessed through the La Jolla Cove, and during low tide, they can even walk out there. The spear fishermen have access through the La Jolla Cove as long as they keep their spear in a safety mode. La Jolla Cove is only 50 yards from the sea lion rookery, so it's easily accessed by foot. And Shell Beach is just 280 yards to the south. Both of these have cement stair access points and lifeguards staffed. Boomer Beach is a dangerous beach, does not have lifeguards. Next slide, please. So this is the boundary as we understand it in the latest version. This shows 3 different areas. The top area is the closed area. The yellow line between the yellow line and the red line shows the areas that is being proposed by the city as a ocean access area. These areas not only shrink the closure area in half compared to the emergency closure, but it creates a large ocean access area for people to transit through the rookery. Next slide, please. The CDP fails to, okay, so it has 3 areas, 50% of the rookery is open, and it creates that path that's not designated in La Jolla Coastal Plan. It creates public safety issues, and it won't achieve the same reductions in sea lion harassment as achieved during the emergency closure. Next slide, please. So this shows the proposed boundaries, but it's overlaid on the beach so you can see what it would look like. The closed area on Point La Jolla, an ocean access area on Boomer Beach, and an open area on Boomer Beach. Yet the rookery uses all of Boomer and Point La Jolla, and this proposal is half of what was deemed necessary during the emergency closure. Allowing access during the pup's vulnerable stage of life doesn't adequately protect them, and a single person's presence could scare the sea lion's moms into the water and possibly abandon them. This is an MMPA violation. Even SeaWorld Rescue is not allowed to transit this area if it would change the behavior of a sea lion. If this is the MMPA law, if SeaWorld must follow it, we must follow it as well. Next slide, please. As you can see here, sea lions use all of Boomer Beach and the ocean, from the ocean to the cliffs, to get to higher ground during high tide, and the moms use it to nurse their pups. And as 40% of the sea lion pups are born on the beach, and typically 80+ sea lions are resting on the beach, as you can see on the far right. Next slide, please. Here you see sea lions again using the cliffs, and the red lines show the area that would be a transit area. Clearly, there's no way to transit through this rookery without disturbing the pups. A disturbance is defined as changing the behavior, such as lifting its head in response to a human, changing its body position, fleeing, and at the temporary closure boundary, it must be reinstated. It should be noted that the 17 other rookeries in California came to the same conclusion and are closed to all public access during pupping season, including the children's pool. The sea lion rookery deserves the same protections. Next slide, please. The proposed access area creates all sorts of public safety issues by creating a path where none exists, causes erosion, and the rangers have no authority to enforce the MMPA and will only be able to report disturbances to NOAA, which is what the situation is now, and it's unacceptable. What defines ocean access? Who can go? What do they have to wear? Rangers are not trained to make these determinations. Next slide, please. The ocean access will result in take. As you can see here, these pictures were taken on June 15th, which is peak pupping season. And spear fishermen are walking right through the rookery. And as you can see, all the sea lions are fleeing into the ocean. This is a circumstance where it's appropriate for the commissioners to step in and restrict public access to protect the marine resources. Next slide, please. There's also other public safety issues where people transit through the rookery. Bulls weighing up to 800 pounds fight for territory up and down the beach, and females are protective of their pups. Next slide, please. Sea lions moms leave their pups on the beach and for up to 3 days when they forage for food, and they're vulnerable for the first 4 months of their life and subject to drowning. Last year, 7 drowned. Harassment during the pupping season may cause moms to abandon their pups. In fact, Sharon Mellon, NOAA sea lion expert, says they don't even touch pups for research purposes on the Channel Islands for up to 9 weeks for fear of breaking the fragile bond between mom and pup or just scaring the mom away and abandoning it. Next slide, please. The temporary closure line boundary was the best option. Sorry, I got lost here. So this shows the warning sign above Boomer Beach and the proposed swimming sign. This is going to invite people to transit through the area, an area where there is no other sign that's posted as an access point. It's a dangerous beach, and it's not even listed on the Park and Rec website as a beach because there's no lifeguards and it's too dangerous. Next slide, please. The emergency closure boundary is the best option. Well, actually, for permanent closure is best option, but emergency closure option was already proven to reduce sea lion disturbances. It protects the majority of sea lion rookery. It provides access to the ocean on a designated trail, and it requires ranger oversight. Next slide, please. The trail used during the emergency closure is shown here on the right-hand side. It goes down the southern boundary. That was the best option. It makes it easier for the rangers to manage by keeping the whole area to the left closed, not having 3 areas with different rules. And the actual number of users is quite small, as Caitlin said. Next slide, please. We don't have time to show this video, so it was one of the divers using that trail coming up, and it was shot just recently in February, so you can view it as time goes. Next slide, please. We advocate for the emergency boundary closure here as shown. Next slide, please. These are all of our sponsors who have written you letters that indicate that they want the closure of the sea lion pupping area as we are recommending. Next slide, please. So I move that special condition 1 be amended to add a 3rd revision. The seasonal closure shall include all of the area closed under the City of San Diego CDP, and we ask for your yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Lucero Sanchez, followed by Kristen Northrop, followed by Laura Walsh. Lucero Sanchez, you should be able to unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Lucero Sanchez with San Diego Coastkeeper. I'm calling in to support staff recommendations for this item. Every year we see the public does not respect the sea lions or their space, putting pups at risk of abandonment, starvation, drowning, and putting themselves at risk of being hurt. Please take the step to protect sea lions, beachgoers, and the environment. While the item proposes closure from May to October, we would be in support of a longer or even year-long closure. We also strongly support the staffing of a city park ranger to aid with public education and enforcement of the seasonal closure and a ban on fireworks during the closure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kristen Northrop.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Kristen Northrup. I am part of the Coastal Environmental Rights Foundation as policy advocate, also known as SURF. We are a nonprofit organization founded by surfers in 2008 for the protection and enhancement of California coastal resources. We support the closure of Point La Jolla from May 1st to October 31st for the protection of sea lions, public safety, and the environment. A year-round closure actually may be more appropriate to ensure these goals are met and establish consistent compliance with the closure. This closure would allow expectant mothers to prepare for birth and have adequate time with their pups. As highly social creatures, sea lions stay with their mothers for the first 6 months of their lives as they learn to hunt and navigate instinctual behaviors. Human interactions can cause potential abandonment or death of young sea lions. Sea lions shouldn't be harassed, tormented, or disturbed by humans. There have been so many documented instances of humans picking up pups, swimming by, closely by, and invading the sea lion's natural habitat. The closure will prevent any disruption to the sea lion's feeding, nursing, breeding, or behavioral patterns. Staffing a park ranger to implement and enforce the closure is critical for the protection of these mammals and a stable marine ecosystem. It will also protect the members of the public. They can have aggressive behaviors when mating, during mating and pupping season. They can bite, chase a member and causing significant harm. Park rangers will help provide clear boundaries and distancing guidelines. The projected closure from May 1st to October 31st will also ban the July 4th firework display from the adjacent Ellen Browning Scripps Park. Fireworks have historically contaminated our oceans with debris, toxins, and pollution. By prohibiting this display, we are protecting our waters, the marine life affected by fireworks, visual, auditorial, and environmental impacts. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Laura Walsh, followed by Morgan Lawner, followed by Brenda Fake. Laura Walsh, you may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Laura Walsh, California Policy Manager for the Surfrider Foundation. Surfrider is a coastal access and marine resources organization, and we tend to not get involved in matters that pit our priority for safeguarding marine life against coastal access. But in this case, I'd like to align our comments with those of the Sierra Club. Having lived and gone to school in La Jolla and having spent many summers there in my youth, as well as swam and joined spearfishing and freediving expeditions off of this beach, I can say that the harassment of the sea lions near the cove on the Point La Jolla bluffs is persistent and getting much worse. At the risk of sounding completely antiquated, it's very clear that this is due to the rise of cell phones and people wanting pictures of the sea lions, as is obvious from many of the pictures shown in slides today. I don't think this is the kind of trade-off that any of us here feel particularly invested in protecting, particularly given marine mammal harassment regulations. Ultimately, without a more clear enforceable boundary maintaining distance between people and sea lions on Boomer Beach, the harassment will continue. Boomer Beach does have a very long history of bodyboarding. I think we'd characterize the beach as thrilling as opposed to dangerous, as I think someone put it earlier. But even if there is more of a boundary created, much of the beach will be kept open and the surf will be accessible in the winter when there are consistent surfable waves in the area. There are great surfable, swimmable, and fishable beaches within walking distance that are open to the public. There's also a stunning coastal trail in downtown La Jolla spanning a few miles that will remain open. The benefit is providing safe marine mammal protections for one of SoCal's last rookeries. It's within walking distance and maybe biking distance of NOAA and the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, where marine mammal protections are designed by grounded science. We support the extension of the closure to align well with pupping season. We also appreciate the need for consistent review of the plan in alignment with the children's pool seasonal closures. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Morgan Lawner. You may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Morgan Lawner. Do you guys have my slideshow? Yes, thank you. I'm a body surfer at Boomer. I grew up in La Jolla. I also did a lot of wildlife conservation in South Africa. Next slide, please. What worries me about the sea lion situation is what's happening to the tide pools. I grew up going to those tide pools, and as you can see, they are destroyed. They're killing all the marine life that was in the tide pools. Next slide. Here's an example of some of the pictures I've taken in the past years of a healthy tide pools on the bottom, and this is what it looks like now. That scares me. I understand that there is an issue with harassment of the sea lions, and from what I hear with everyone, it has to do with selfies and Instagram. I think that there's more proactive approaches in public education. 2017, for instance, Instagram released a hashtag where you can actually regulate. So when people are at geotag somewhere, it gives you a warning, providing education about why it's bad to take selfies with these animals. Also, we learned that the rangers are full-time now. They're getting the funding for that, but in the past year, we've only had rangers that have showed up once a month to regulate. So why not look at how effective the rangers are all year round instead of just shutting the beach down? Why not put a temporary lifeguard station up during the peak season to help regulate and show, you know, a sign of enforcement? When people see that they're being held accountable, they may not be taking photos as much with their sea lions. They may know that it's wrong based off of that, because educating the way with signs, we're not doing a good job now. So I hope that you guys consider taking a different approach and saving our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brenda Fake, followed by Amber Becerra, followed by Elena Tillman. Brenda Fake, you may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Brenda Fake. I live along the Coast Walk Trail and very close to the area. I'm appealing to the California Coastal Commission regarding your study to have while I think there needs to be a coexisting solution to this, it can't be all or nothing. I sit on a board in one of the community groups, and it has become so dysfunctional. We can't get our work done because this is policy setting. And it is in my humble opinion that if we're going to take we need to come up with a collective answer to save the environment, but also allow for the recreational people to be in there and coexist with the seals. And the start of that has happened with the fact that the city has stepped up and they're going to provide enforcement. Enforcement is the right answer, and rigorous at that. I don't believe shutting this down is the right answer. But if we're going to do that, I propose that this council put together, ran and sanctioned by the city and Jolla Cava's office, a impact enforcement team to take a look at studying the impacts systemically and not as a single issue, but as something that can coexist between both the recreational users and the people who like the seals. It is dangerous right now. I've personally asked people to step away when they get too close over the selfie stuff. Thank you, Kim Kardashian and all that, those folks who make influencing videos that's not working. TikTok is the worst. And so I ask that the California Coastal Commission take a look at a proposal. I'm happy to send it in regarding a team that I'd like to sanction through and get a cross-functional of the different people representing the different community groups and a person or two from the seal side of the thing to look at this for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Amber Becerra. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Amber Becerra. I'm the president and CEO of the Marine Mammal Care Center in Los Angeles. I am an attorney, and I studied environmental law and animal law at Berkeley Law School in collaboration with SeaWorld San Diego, as well as with the authorization of NOAA. I have personally myself rescued and worked with animals that came from the La Jolla Rookery that were taken from that area into SeaWorld Rescue Center, and we have collaborated with them to rehabilitate these animals. So I have firsthand knowledge of the unfortunate tragedy that occurs when these animals these pups are separated from their mothers down at that rookery. We strongly support the recommendation of the Sierra Club and the expanded boundary closures because of the issue of getting too close to these animals that causes this separation of pups and mothers. Unfortunately, NOAA lacks enforcement resources to make sure that the Marine Mammal Protection Act is upheld in this area. So the commission is in a unique position where they're entrusted with and have the opportunity to provide this expanded protection to this critical resource that I think is not only a gem for La Jolla, the tourists that come and visit there, but also an incredible natural resource that we have for these animals right here in our backyard. I want to touch a little bit on the MMPA and the definition of harassment. Level A harassment is designed as the act of any pursuit or annoyance with the potential to injure these animals. But level B harassment, which is also protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act, is the potential to disturb by disrupting behavioral patterns, migration, breathing, nursing, feeding, or sheltering. I say this because I'm in support of the expanded protection of the area. If you are required by the MMPA to remain 50 yards away from these animals in order to not impact their breathing, their nursing, their feeding, it's very critical that we make sure that we maintain a regulated distance. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Next, we have Elena Tillman.
Good morning. I'm about to show a video of a birth on Boomer Beach. I'll ask to show that in just a few moments. The idea is that some, there's pause it for just a second.
Give us a second.
No worries. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and have the video played in just a moment. I just wanted to speak real briefly on that. So some mothers do choose to give birth on Point La Jolla. Some use the sandy beach of Boomer. If the beach is open to the public during birthing season, there will be many gaps of time when restrictions to approaching the mothers and newborns will not be monitored, and possibly disturbing the bond so necessary for a secure beginning for the newborn. The mother nurses frequently in the first few days before she herself will leave it to find her own nourishment. The pup's greatly dependent on mother as it can't swim and is in danger if the waters of the beach come up to where she is. If the mother is disturbed in any way from human encroachment, she may flee to the ocean, leaving the pup alone and unable to protect herself. We have witnessed numerous incidents such as this, resulting in the pup drowning, one of which included the crowding of mom and pup, forcing pup into the water and led to a harrowing and exhausting 45-minute rescue attempt on mother's part. Pup ultimately did not make it. Huge crowd witnessed it. Mother was wailing in grief. It was just a horrific, but ultimately preventable sight. As a reminder, other mothers do not adopt or caretake for others young, and newborn pups are totally reliant on their mothers for 6 months for food at minimum. Takeaway point here is that this is an extremely vulnerable time for pups, and no human interaction should be allowed to disrupt the developing bond between mom and pup or the survival, including on Boomer. If you could play the video, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Circling back now to names that we couldn't find in the attendees list earlier. John Leake, David Grubb, Ellen Shively, Kelly O'Sullivan Sommer, Abby Barrett, and Lori Mendez. If your name has been called, please raise your hand. I am not seeing any hands raised. There are no more speakers for this item.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Lee. Really great job there. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the City of San Diego Department of Parks. Ms. Dennison, you have 2 minutes to respond to any of the comments that were made by the folks on public comment.
I don't have any specific comments other than I urge the commissioners to consider giving time for the measures as outlined in our proposal, such as the 7 days a week ranger staffing on site to take effect. I want to go ahead and emphasize that the city of San Diego accepts the recommendations and the special conditions as outlined in the Coastal Commission staff report, as well as the April 5th addendum, including Ms. Carney's comments that were made during her presentation. So with that, I would like to have the opportunity, especially during the 7-year permit process, as we provide valuable monitoring information and land management information for the commission to consider. And we would welcome the opportunity to come before you again to provide more information as needed.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm sure there might be some questions for you when we close the public hearing. All right, Ms. Carney, do you have any closing comments from staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to start by, thanking the City of San Diego, Councilmember LaCava, Ms. Dennison, and the San Diego staff for all their hard work on this matter and for working so well with us to get this to a hearing. Just want to go over some of the comments that were made during the testimony and try to address those issues. In terms of the comments about the closure not being necessary here, and folks that were citing the work of Dr. Hainan, that work is based on looking at the population of sea lions as a whole. And what the commission standard here is the Coastal Act, in particular, section 30230 of the Coastal Act. And I'll just read some of that policy language. Marine resources shall be maintained, enhanced, and where feasible, restored. And special protection shall be given to areas and species of special biological or economic significance. Further, that uses of the marine environment shall be carried out in a manner that will sustain biological productivity of coastal waters and that will maintain healthy populations of all species of marine organisms. So staff believes there is sufficient basis under the Coastal Act for this closure, and we have certainly seen evidence based on the harassment that a closure is appropriate here. One of the speakers mentioned the importance of closing the stairway that leads down to the bluffs. That would be closed during the closure period, so I just want to clarify that. Also, there were many comments opposing the provision of the ocean access at Boomer Beach, and they cite the emergency CDP approach as being better with the larger closure area, and simply restrict access to the very southerly area of Boomer Beach. Comments that staff and the city have received indicate that there are safety concerns with that most southerly route, and they are asking for access that is not as steep and slippery as that southern point. So that is the reason for providing that access at that larger location. Sierra Club also mentioned the limits on the effectiveness of the city rangers, that although they will be able to enforce the closure, they are unable to specifically address harassment activity. Staff's understanding is that the city rangers would be able to enforce state laws prohibiting harassment, but this would require the city to adopt a local rule to enforce. And so that is an action we are asking the city to consider doing, as well as other strategies as part of the long-term management plan required under Special Condition 4. So I'll wrap with that. We do have Dr. Coteen available for questions. Let me just check in with Caitlin to see, and Kanani to see if there's anything further you would want to add to these comments.
I would just note that one of the commenters spoke about maintaining access to No Man's Point, which, based on our understanding, is a convenient way for the spearfishing community to access the water. And in speaking to the city, this No Man's Point is on the northeastern edge of Point La Jolla. So the way that people access that point is through the stairway. And since the stairway would be closed during the seasonal closure, we agreed with the city's point that there would still be limited water access to the south for spearfishing community. And also the spearfishing can transit through La Jolla Cove. It's a marine protected area, so there are special regulations, including that the spearfishing gear needs to be in an unloaded condition, not carried in hand, and that the diver should remain at the surface. So I just wanted to note that the city does have a municipal code provision that disallows flotation devices through the cove. So I think that that's one reason that convenient access through the cove might also be a challenge, but we do think that spearfishing could continue through the ocean accessway to the south.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Leslie, for those clarifications. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. I have Commissioner Padilla and then Commissioner Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And some of the question I had concern was I'm sensitive to the points that were made by the Sierra Club, San Diego chapter, and Seal Society with respect to access in Boomer Beach. And I'm concerned about indirect access to the rookery during the closure period. And I referenced the fact that during the emergency permitting scope and period, that was the basis upon which we found some good empirical results, that we had an actual reduction in the interaction, which is what we're trying to achieve. So I'm concerned about that, and that was my area of inquiry. I appreciate the work that staff did here, in particular in the addendum in broadening some of the draft conditions. I think in terms of the length of the closure period and the ability to collect additional data in the program monitoring and reporting. So my inclination, Madam Chair, would be to either persuade staff to incorporate that mod to special condition 1 to include the entirety of the emergency permit area, to include Boomer Beach. I'm very familiar with this area. It is for all but the most intrepid and experienced body surfers and otherwise, it's a dangerous landing if you know that area at all. So I am concerned about that being a departure from what we had in the emergency permit. So I'd be prepared to hope that you would either incorporate that or prepared to make an amending motion and prepared to move at the appropriate time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Padilla. I agree with you. I think that it should be the entirety of the emergency of the area that's defined under the emergency CDP. Okay, Commissioner Hart.
Right, I would incorporate the comments of my fellow Commissioner Padilla with regard to Boomer Beach. I mean, it seems pretty clear that from all of the videos we've seen, from all the photos we've seen and what we've read and the testimony we've heard, that Boomer Beach is a significant area for the sea lions and particularly for calving. So I would support the amendment of special condition 1 to include that. I did have a question. I'm not sure if this would be for Chief Ranger, is it Louise, or staff, but it's with regard to the evidence that there's nighttime harassment. So I understand that the closure is 24 hours a day, but some of what was included in the report and the appendices indicated that people go down there at night, they throw beer bottles at the sea lions and they harass them at night. So I'm wondering, how does the city intend to deal with that particular threat?
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Ms. Dennison, can you have Chief Ranger Louise, I think his name is, respond, or Ms. Dennison, if you would like to respond?
I'd like to go ahead and have Senior Park Ranger Rich Valesky speak to this point, but before I turn it over to him, I do want to emphasize that the ranger staff do not work in the evening hours, but we can provide the information that we are aware of that is related to us. So with that, I'd like to call Senior Park Ranger Rich Valesky.
Good morning.
Cue the ranger. Very nicely done.
The question is night coverage at Point La Jolla.
Yes, it is.
We don't have rangers working at night. We're unarmed. It's an officer safety issue. Any harassment incidents that occur at night would have to be reported to and handled by San Diego Police Department.
If I could just ask a follow-up question, is there an opportunity to have cameras there during the nighttime hours with signage indicating that people are being recorded and will be prosecuted for harassment of the sea lions?
I would like to go ahead and respond to that question. Thank you, Commissioner Hart. The City of San Diego is currently evaluating holistically a surveillance ordinance that has to do with all equipment that records visual imagery as well as audio. So that is currently underway and being evaluated by the City Council, including the mayor's staff. So that will have a profound effect on our ability to go ahead and place this type of equipment at all of our park sites, and frankly, for all city departments that use this type of equipment.
Yeah, because the concern I have is regardless of what we do during the day, if people are going there at night and causing this kind of damage that we're in, harassment that we're reading about, you know, it really undermines everything that you're attempting to do. Would it be possible for you to just report back to the executive director? I know there is a lot of monitoring, there's going to be a lot of reporting, but specifically on when the cameras are installed or what the approach is going to be to address the nighttime harassment. I know we would love to hear back on that particular point.
Yes, we would be happy to, once we have more information in terms of the city's plans for that ordinance and the implementation of that, we would be happy to go ahead and not only share that news, but also Parks and Recreation Department's plans and how to go ahead and incorporate that.
Thank you, Ms. Dennison. I wanted to, let me see, I had a question, now I can't find it. Oh, okay, Commissioner Rice.
Yeah. Whoops. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question, Carl. You mentioned, and I'm something about potentially requiring the city to adopt an ordinance that would allow for, was it fines or was it to enforce? And I'm just wondering, I'm not finding that in the report, and I didn't catch by your language whether that was included as a condition or was being considered.
Through the chair. So yes, so staff is asking the city to have a look at whether that's possible for them to adopt an ordinance to allow their rangers to address the harassment activity specifically. And that would be something we would be expecting them to report back on through their long-term management plan, which is special condition 4. And so that's the mechanism through which we would be expecting to hear from the city on that. And similarly, to the last point with regard to cameras, that would be another tool we would be asking the city to report back on through that plan.
And just and so would that include, that's including the enforcement mechanism would include also fines, monetary fines?
Well, I don't know about fines specifically. The there is an anti harassment provision in state law, and it's our understanding the city could implement that. I'm not sure about there being a monetary penalty associated with that. I can't think of a reason the city couldn't include that, but I would ask if our staff council has any comments on that.
Thank you, Mr. Schwing. I'm going to turn to Ms. Dennison and see if you would be willing, in terms of your pursuit of an ordinance change to give enforcement authority to your rangers, to also give them the, to ensure that the ordinance has a penalty included. That tends to get people's attention.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Brownsy. We would be happy to go ahead and explore that and report back in terms of the viability of that option.
So you'll be reporting back on the cameras and the ordinance with penalty authority. I have Commissioner Bochco who'd like to ask a follow-up.
Thank you. Just in terms of the term of 7 years, and so, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Is that better? In terms of the term of 7 years, since there are some very large explorations of, say, cameras and ordinances that may really affect. You want it closer because it keeps.
You need to turn it down.
We did.
Yeah,
It
it is down.
It's down.
Both of them?
Yeah, they're both down.
Now try, maybe it's ours.
Okay.
Yeah, might have been mine.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dean.
So what I'm asking is there a way that the term can be, let's say in 2 years from now, we learn that the ordinance wasn't passed or the cameras were not purchased, that we could limit the 7 years in order to, readdress those issues, that they would become conditions at that point? Yeah.
Yes, that actually was my question. So I'm really happy that Commissioner Bochco asked it. So Ms. Dennison, one of the things, and Carl, think about this too, what I would like is an annual report back to the commission. I think, Ms. Dennison, you said you'd be happy to do that. We find that those are incredibly helpful for the commission because then we are actively coordinating with you on what's working, what's not working. Would you be amenable to that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. That was really one of my big questions. All right, and then I just want to follow up on the expansion of the exclusion area. Ms. Dennison, does the city, obviously you worked on a smaller area, but I think that the commission is rightfully concerned about the activities. And just speaking for myself, the fact that there are available beaches very close to this area, in my mind, really speaks to the necessity to close this area to protect these marine mammals while still having very close options for those recreationalists who want to access the beach. Can you respond to that?
Yes, I can. After hearing numerous comments, and clearly this is an issue that the city team, as well as the input that we've collected throughout these past months over the life cycle of this project, we will accept the commission's recommendation in regards to expanding the closure area that includes Boomer Beach. However, I would like to go ahead and mention that in addition to the information that we have committed to providing to you on an annual basis, as well as some of the specific dates that are outlined in the special conditions, we would like the opportunity to be able to share information. And if it proves either way that more restrictions are needed for the public or lessen them, I would like the commissioners to respectfully asking for your consideration and perhaps that changing in the future.
Absolutely, Ms. Dennison. We tend to make science-based decisions, so factual information is incredibly important to us. And I agree, because I think one of the strengths of this plan is that if, let's say, the sea lion population moves on, right? And this is no longer as popular as a birthing spot or resting spot, then absolutely, we would want to know that, because, we're trying to balance marine life protection with coastal access. So I can assure you that the commissioners feel that way. Okay, really appreciate your support of the commission's concern. So what I'd like to ask Jack, Mr. Ainsworth, is those can be incorporated in terms of the recommendations, or do we have to do an amending motion?
No, Madam Chair, given the fact that the city has really amended their application, their project description to include the expanded closure area, I don't think that's necessary. We will reflect that in a condition, though, both
Absolutely.
the expanded closure area. So we will incorporate that into our staff recommendation, as well as the recommendation for the annual reviews. So we'll change our special conditions to reflect those two things. Louise, did I catch everything? And Carl, do you have any comments on that?
Yes, I actually do have a question about the intended closure area. The Sierra Club and others were recommending that the area that had been closed through the prior emergency CDP would be closed through this action. I heard the city's comments as actually being a bit more expansive than that the closure would extend over all of Boomer Beach. So, and just to clarify, under the emergency permit, there was still some space at the very southerly portion of Boomer Beach for water access. But by closing all of Boomer Beach, that water access wouldn't necessarily exist. So I wanted to know what the city's proposal was with regard to that.
Ms. Dennison, could you respond to the clarifying question from Mr. Schwang?
Sure, I would be happy to, but before I respond, I would like to go ahead and invite Councilmember LaCava to provide his remarks, and I will go ahead and respond after he speaks. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember LaCava, I'm going to have you just hold for a second, because I want to hear specifically from Ms. Dennison on that question from Mr. Schwang.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. When I say expanding the closure area to include all of Boomer Beach, obviously a fair amount of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with this area. Boomer Beach would extend past the metal railing into the area where the Green Belvedere is. What I would like to go ahead and emphasize is the closure, the southern or the western portion of the closure area would extend from what is currently being proposed in our CDP to what we had before in effect during the emergency closure. Now, just for point of reference, I want to be very clear that there is the stepping stone that is immediately adjacent to the low concrete wall that served as the line of demarcation that would form the boundary of the western portion of Boomer Beach. So my apologies for the confusion.
No worries. When we start discussing modifications from the dais, it's not an issue at all. Okay, but Carl, are you clear that it really is, it sounds like the Sierra Club recommendation with respect to the area included in the emergency CDP, as Ms. Dennison just stated?
Thank you. Yes, I understand that. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember LaCava, if you could make super brief comments. We're going to lose a quorum, and we'd like to act on this item.
I just wanted to respond to your concerns, Chair and Commissioner Rice's, about the regulatory authority of the Rangers. This actually will show up at my Environment Committee on April 21st, And we will be imposing the same regulations that currently exist at Children's Pool, which have proven to be very effective over the past several years. So I certainly invite commission staff to join us on April 21st. That will be the first step, and then it'll go to the full council. So we'll have that in place quite shortly. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your efforts, Councilmember LaCava. We really appreciate that, and we're really heartened to hear that you'll be pursuing that at your committee. Okay, with that, it sounds like we have agreement on the conditions with respect to this permit. I'm looking for a motion. Councilmember. Getting all my titles.
Just different hats.
Okay, it's Commissioner Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that the commission approve coastal development permit 6220113 pursuant to the staff recommendation contained in the report and as modified in this hearing, and ask for a second and an aye vote.
Second.
Moved by Padilla, seconded by Bochco. Is there any objection to a unanimous vote on this? Seeing none, the permit is approved as modified by staff and by the commission at this hearing. So thank you very much, Ms. Dennison, to you and your team, Councilmember LaCava. Really appreciate your efforts on this important issue, as well as all the members of the public who have weighed in on this issue. So we're going to move on now to Carl. I think there's just one deputy director's report. So everybody enjoy your weekend. Take care. And to members of the public, thank you very much. Bye-bye.